deepest reaches of the untamed world, a faction of blood magic wielding heretics lie in wait. In my fantasy world of Valethria, the Covenant of Dread is a continent-spanning group of magicians, warriors, and skin changers that worship the Chaos Gods that were defeated by the Lightgiver over 3,500 years ago. The common folk know little of them, just that they worship these long-dead Chaos Gods, practice forbidden blood magic, and are from somewhere outside of the known world. To the people of Valethria, they are a scourge, attacking civilization every 10th night when there is no moon to light the sky. The hordes of monsters batter against walls and fortifications, and they are controlled and led by people that border on being monsters themselves. For thousands of years, the Covenant has pestered those in the light, and for just as long, they have failed to truly achieve anything of consequence on a grand scale. But ancient powers are stirring, curses are being broken, and long-forgotten bloodlines are resurgent. And soon the time may come where the Covenant of Dread may finally make a long-lasting impact. Hey Legends, thanks for joining me today, and welcome to the next installment of Painted Legends, where I paint a mini that will be making an appearance in my Dungeons & Dragons campaign very soon, and I tell you a bit about their story and how they fit into my world. Last video, we looked into a member of the Sorcerer Kings, and we'll definitely be revisiting them again soon, but today we're going to be looking at a different anti-Radiant faction, the Covenant of Dread. Now, you won't actually be able to find the models I'm painting today, as I've done something that I'm pretty excited about. I've created these models myself with the help of some AI. Now, I've got some mixed feelings about this, which I'd be very happy to talk about in another video if you'd like to hear about it, and I could also show you how I've done it. But despite my mixed feelings, it's pretty hard to not admit that it's an awesome thing that I can design my own characters and creatures and then bring them to life on the tabletop without having really any skills with modeling or art or anything really. But anyway, putting that to the side, with all that said, let's get on into it. Marr'Shael. In the ancient tongue that the Covenant of Dread speaks, it directly translates to patient shadow, but it can be interpreted in a number of ways. It could mean waiting in shadow or darkness, or it could mean darkness in waiting. And it is the name of the character that I'll be telling you about today. Hatched in the red hills of the old world, Marr'Shael grew up in a nomadic setting amongst his serpent folk clan. Many ages past, their people had supposedly been created by a great villain, and they had wrought much destruction to the people of Air, also called the Old World. And as such, many distrusted their people, and while they were permitted entry and asylum within the last city, as any and all could, they knew they would suffer under the discriminating eyes of the other races that lived there. And so instead, they braved the dunes of dark red sand named the Red Hills, and the monsters that roamed them. This had been their way for many generations, always moving so that they could not be pinned down by the Golden Horde, which were great creatures of death and destruction sent by the Deceiver to destroy them. But over the generations, the Serpent Folk clans had become fewer and farther between, to the point where it was believed that perhaps only the one clan remained. In the Serpent Folk custom, Marr'Shael was not raised by his broodmother, but instead by his adopted parents, who were much older and wiser. Throughout his childhood, he showed an aptitude for hunting, feeling at home amongst the blood-coloured sands, trained to hunt by his adopted father alongside his brood sister, who had been adopted beside him. And while most of their days were spent travelling, constantly making and breaking camp, Marr'Shael and many of the others of his clan enjoyed bathing in the brutal sun, absorbing as much heat as they could and finding some kind of peace in the lifestyle they led. But unfortunately, this peace would not last. Very rarely, and usually with a number of years between, the serpent folk would be unfortunate enough to be stumbled upon by a collection of monsters with golden carapace. And as Marr'Shael approached his teenage years, they would suffer a great tragedy by one of these attacks by the Golden Horde. It had almost appeared as though the creations of the Deceiver were waiting for them, hidden among the sands in an ambush, though it's much more likely they just got unlucky. And in the attack, Marr'Shael would suffer a large and deep cut from a long, heavily armored and many-limbed creature, but his adopted father would distract the beast, and his sister would rush to his side. But in this moment of pain and confusion, with red dust kicked up by the fighting, Marr'Shael would swear that he had seen something no one else did, a commander of some kind amongst the monsters. A person in black armor with eyes that drew Marr'Shael in and froze him in place. And while he was locked in place by the sight of this creature, he could not move, speak, or even breathe. It was as though his entire being had frozen, and a great cold spread through his body and his mind. But his bruised sister would drag him away, towards where the main cluster of their people were, behind some of their best and well-seasoned warriors. But the clan suffered many losses in this attack. Marr'Shael's adopted parents would both die, and their entire clan would be reduced by almost half, now only being a clan of less than 5 dozen. With many of their best warriors dead in the efforts they went to protect their people, they were left with only one choice: going to the last city. Now thankfully the last city is situated in the center of the Red Sands, as it is an inhospitable environment that even the Golden Horde has struggled to gain footing within, despite them having ravaged the rest of the world. And so, within a few short weeks, the clan made their way to one of the most ancient places of Aegir, which is now called the Last City, as its true name had been lost long ago, supposedly before even the Knights of Sky and Fire. As were expected, they were welcomed by the officials and peacekeepers of the city, but the common folk treated them at best with distrust and a suspicious eye, and at worst, they were treated with abuse, often being physical. Marr'Shael would both witness and suffer many beatings throughout his teenage years, and while many of his people would shy away, hiding in their meager homes, he would instead see it as a challenge. He would remember the strength he found in his adopted father's kindness, even when it was not deserved. And he would take up this challenge and set the goal of bringing honor and respect to his people. But with their history, he knew it would not come easily. And so he set out to join one of the most prestigious factions in the entire city, the Warriors of Aegir, who in Valethria are known as the Covenant of Dread. Now, joining the warriors was seen as both a great honor and a great sacrifice, as if one was successful, they would never know peace again, but they would embark on an ancient journey that none had yet completed. To join them was no easy task though. A series of trials awaited him and his brood sister, who had followed him on this path, always seeking to protect her brother. And as the other candidates failed the trials, at the cost of death, the two siblings would find themselves approaching the final trial of bringing forth the golden carapace of a creature of the Golden Horde. Up until this point, Marr'Shael and his sister's upbringing among the Red Hills had benefited them well, but this especially gave them an advantage, as they had been trained to hunt from a young age. But on their hunt, they were sabotaged by other candidates, and were descended upon by more monsters than they could handle. Marr'Shael could not protect his sister, and so she, and those who had sabotaged them, died in the trial. Marr'Shael was the only one to survive, while the others descended into the heart, a massive reservoir of blood that the warriors draw power from. But Marr'Shael had passed his trial, and he joined the warriors of Aegir. Now, something that has been hidden from the people of Valethria is the nature of their home, and also the nature of Aegir, the old world. Legends tell stories of how when the Deceiver won the 200-year war, he tore the world in two, taking a massive chunk of the world and putting it elsewhere so that he may control it and be its king, leaving those upon Aegir to suffer as seas disappeared, entire ecosystems fell into ruin as the world reshaped itself. Now, as it has been over 3 millennia, many are unsure what is metaphor and what isn't, but what is known for certain is that the warriors of Aegir can only reach Valethria through a series of ancient teleportation circles. And so now, Marr'Shael is among the selective ranks of the warriors and has undergone the ritual of a skin changer, having gained the ability to turn into another, more monstrous form. There are a variety of monsters that the warriors can turn into by partially fusing their blood with that of the creature, and Marr'Shael has chosen that of a red stalker, a creature that complements his abilities as a hunter and a tracker well. While upon his expeditions on Valethria, he has two goals: to hunt the Risen, as the Risen are known to the people of Aea as evil. They are descendants of ancient traitors that helped to bring destruction to their world and death to their gods, and it was their faith in the Deceiver that gives him power and fuels the machine that is the Golden Horde. And his second goal, one he specializes in as a hunter, is to seek their gods. It has long been believed that while the Deceiver killed their gods, they cannot be truly destroyed while there are still those that worship them. It is this faith in their gods, called the Chaos Gods by those in the light, that drives the warriors, as if they can bring their gods back to Aegir, they might be able to stop the Horde, return the world to harmony, and bring the Deceiver to justice. And so now, Marr'Shael spends his time between expeditions training the next generation of serpent folk, who are slowly being accepted, largely due to his efforts and sacrifices. But very soon, he will embark on an expedition where he will encounter a few individuals that may not fit what he imagined them to be. And depending on how this encounter goes, it could help him realize that perhaps the people of Aegir, and the Risen in particular, are not as bound by their histories as he thinks they are, just as his people aren't. Or perhaps the encounter will not go so well, and his greatest strength, his love for his people, could be reinforced by his hatred for the Risen, pushing him down the role of a villain. But only time will tell. Thanks again for watching, Legends. As usual, I've had a lot of fun putting this all together and sharing it with you. It's really helping me flesh out my characters for my D&D game, and I hope you're enjoying hearing about them. I also think my painting is going to be getting better the more I do this, as it seems each time I keep finding new little ways to improve what I'm doing. So if you're keen to keep hearing about my world and the people within it, and also hopefully see me get a bit better at painting, let me know by subscribing. I'm going to try and upload weekly, but there's a good chance it might be fortnightly at times when I'm busy. Anyway, let me know if you've got any comments or questions, but with all that said, I'll catch you next time, Legends.